you can teach a lot of skills. You can't teach character. To teach character, to teach like values and morals, good luck.
Write the check for speed. You know,
That's
if you
true.
can do it, your organization will thank you. Your stress level will thank you. Your blood pressure will thank you.
Totally.
You know, write the check for speed. You know,
you called it being stuck, and it's usually just not really like, if we get down to the God's honest truth of it all, we just don't know what to do next. And considering that can be terrifying. And I think if I could just shave 6 months or a year or 5 years off of your learning curve, whoever's out there, that's what I want to do. Instead of blaming somebody for he's why this happened. They undercut my contract. They broke their word. And I just said, okay, the buck stops here. If I'm going to do this, it's got to be with me and God.
Yeah.
And that's all there is.
Welcome everyone to the Will Podcast, where our mission here is to hopefully inspire you with wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy. And today I am joined with my special guest, Mr. Justin Lund. How are you doing today, sir?
I am excellent. Thank you for having me, Will.
Dude, it's such a blessing to have you here. We've crossed paths a couple of times this year, and I think the first time we didn't even realize it. And then the second time we were at WealthCon again.
Yes. Yep.
That's where we met, mutual acquaintance of Kate, who is amazing. And she's for months, she's like, you got to get Justin on. You got to get Justin on. So Kate, if you're watching, because you will be, we finally we made it. We made it work, and we're here.
And she is great. I just have to plug her. She is like the amount of time and heart she pours into helping other people figure things out through that. I'm floored by her enthusiasm. It's truly remarkable.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, it's, we're big fans of Ryan Pineda and everything that he's doing there. But when she came in as our coach, right, she was really the glue that kept us tied to Ryan's organization. Like her, if she said she was going to call, she called. If she was going to review your content and give you some strategies, give you some, some criticism at times, good and bad.
Yep.
She's always done what she said she would do. And while we're still, in relationship with Pineda and what he's doing, I'm Kate's biggest champion for this next journey that she's going on,
totally
in her life. Cause, she is one of those few people that would call themselves a coach, a mentor that you come across and you believe it. You spend 5 minutes with her, you are going to really believe that she is doing what she is called to do, what she's passionate about.
Oh, yeah.
And not many people can say that, when our time here on this planet is done. I mean, I hope that, people will be able to tell the story after me that, Will did what he was called to do. Will did what he was passionate about, and Will made a difference. That's what I hope. I hope my kids will be able to say that. I hope the grandchildren that I'll probably never meet will be able to say, like the legacy that he started for our family had meaning, had value, and made an impact. So
ripples on. Yeah,
absolutely. So with all of that being said, man, so who are you?
Yeah. So I'm the ninth child in a family of 9 kids. And so I have a lot of brothers and sisters. I come from a great family and had great parents. And, I am so blessed in so many ways. My journey has taught me a lot of lessons. I've had the grace of God in my life so many times. There's so many reasons that I shouldn't even be here anymore. But I'm the father of 4 children, and I love helping them to grow. I love learning about. I didn't have any idea what being a father was like. Of course, I guess that smacks us all in the face. and the transition that goes from little kids to medium-sized kids to adult, like late teenage years to 20 somethings is just
Yeah.
continues to blow my mind on a weekly basis, if not daily.
Yeah.
So that's a process that never ends, it seems, as far as just keep learning and growing and developing. Um, and I really love working with entrepreneurs and small businesses and helping them to solve problems and bringing some of my past to their present to avoid some of the pitfalls, some of the challenges, whether it be mindset or systems or even into tax deductions and things of that nature. So
Yeah.
we kind of get into a lot that way, and that's me, I guess, in a nutshell.
Yeah. What's the age range of your children?
Youngest is about to turn 14. Oldest is 22 and some change.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we have five,
Okay.
28 to 8.
Oh, okay.
So we're my youngest. So we have 8, 9, 18, 21, and 28. So
Okay. So you kind of
yeah,
got
we're
some bookends
there's
on there, right?
yeah, there's a gap. There's
Yep.
we got some built-in babysitters, for a couple of years still yet. Our 21-year-old, she just graduated. She just graduated from college this past fall, and our 18-year-old just started.
Awesome.
So it's been a journey. It's funny because they're all five of the kids. They are so terribly different.
Mhm.
And I say terribly because the youngest four are daughters,
Yep.
and when I thought I knew what I was doing, another child showed up to show me just how little that I actually knew about
I
what
hear
I
you.
was doing.
Yep.
But it's such a blessing. Like each one of their lives has made me a better human being,
Oh yeah.
and
That's
it's
unequivocal. That's for
you
sure. I
know
mean, you have the choice to do that, right? I mean, you can choose that path, or it can kind of beat you up. But there's the opportunity that I think God gives us with each of those children to really level up and to become a better person, to
yeah
meet their needs and to grow as a person ourselves. And the tough part for me was that I just wish somebody would have kind of warned me about is when I have one daughter who's turning 18 and another child that's turning, 8 or 9. Like I need to take such a different approach to them, but it just sneaks up on you so fast that you don't. And I would realize myself talking to my 18-year-old the same way I talked to my 8-year-old. I'm like, well, why is she mad that I'm talking? Oh, because I'm speaking to her like a child, like this little
right
baby almost.
yeah
And there's you need to delineate these age brackets and recognize when things happen. It's time to turn the page and start parenting a little
yeah
differently.
sure, absolutely. And then at the same way that we interact with our wives,
Mm.
you spend all day with your youngest, and then you engage with your wife.
Hmm.
You gotta, okay, who am I talking to?
Yep. Better
What
reset something
what
there.
are we talking about? Are we talking about a Bluey marathon that we just spent Saturday morning doing, or you know, or are we
Yep.
talking about planning the family vacation next summer?
Right.
There's a difference. There's a difference, but it's been
Absolutely.
great. But you said something that I think we're going to dig into this quite a bit. I wish somebody would have.
Hmm.
I wish somebody would have, because there is so much, that your father didn't know to share,
Hmm.
because he's not writing a book.
Right.
There's hey, do this, so there are people that we can learn from their example.
Hmm.
But like, I wish if I would have only known,
Right.
and and I think when we get to that point where we realize, okay, this and that was, for me in my walk in my life, is I I got to a place where I knew I had deficiencies in so many different areas. I was, I was, a full-fledged alcoholic for more than a decade, and
Mm.
that led me to get into trouble, in trouble with the law. And I was intoxicated, crashed into a police car, which then led to this
Oh,
problem, and then so many different things that happened. And finally I had somebody that cared enough to show up, to knock on my door, and say, I know you're going through some stuff. I'm here to help.
Mm-hmm.
That was, by far one of the biggest blessings that have ever had to this day, outside of, meeting Jesus.
Yeah.
And the, but then as I started to go down this journey, I was like, you know what? I need someone to show me. I wasn't married yet, but I was getting close. How do I be a husband? How do I learn how to handle my finances? How do I learn how to be a disciple of Jesus Christ? How do I learn how to be, dependable?
Yeah.
How do I become someone who, when they say, hey, I'm going to do this thing, I'm going to do this thing. And putting the right people in my life, and it's carried over to this day. We talked about Kate, like just the mentorship that she's provided for the niche in the marketplace that she provides. It's just phenomenal.
Yep.
We do, Ryan Pineda and the services that he provides, and we're in, Patrick Bet David, we're in his masterminds, so like on a high level, we're connected with all of these people because they have an example that
Right.
we want to emulate, whether it's in our personal life or in the business. And like in our business, we do a lot of different things. We're a general contractor, a real estate broker,
Mm-hmm.
a roofing contractor. We have a media department. We're about to break out into the syndication fund space. So there's lots of my boss, our CEO, Scott DeVore, he's building out his coaching platform, because similar to you, and we're going to get in that here in a minute, like he just loves entrepreneurship and everything about it.
Yeah.
And wants to see people take their idea of making pizzas and grow that deal, as big as they want it,
Yep.
So how, okay, so what are you doing today? There's a two-part question. What are you doing today? And then how did you get there?
Okay, so today we do a lot of coaching and consulting to help people through kind of three primary pillars that I would say are mindset first. And I kind of visualize this as sort of the triangle, kind of like the recycle triangle logo, right? So you have mindset, you have systems, and you have delegation. And you need to do them in that order. My opinion, if you try building out systems or delegating things before you've got the right mindset, or you delegate before you have a system, you're going to run into chaos. You're going to waste money. You're going to hire the wrong people. You're going to build the wrong stuff because you don't know what you're doing. So if we start with a mindset, we get into that with our consulting and our coaching, where we just help people just ensure that they're bringing the mindset and learning how to overcome limiting beliefs and set goals and have targets, things that they work towards, so that there's a system for that. And then get into the systems of their work and start building playbooks and efficiencies to where there's duplicative results. If there's something you're doing every Monday, or if you're doing it every single day, if you're doing it on the first Monday of every month, is that written and distilled down into writing to where you could begin to think about delegating that. And then we get into delegating and start teaching how to have the system so that you can delegate. And that allows you to get access to more time and to more resources. Typically, when you follow that triangle, the output of that whole cycle running is time, energy, and resources to do different things with. And then we get into the next level of mindset, which is, and this may go on ad infinity, who knows? But the next level is how to then deploy that time back into things that are going to fill you up, whether that's fill up your bank account, fill up your heart, your soul, your relationships. Because if you do the triangle and you're getting the result of more resources that you have available to you in all these different kind of buckets, without a purpose, without a direction, and without the right mindset, again, coming back into it, you could squander those resources, or you could go back and kind of relapse into negative habits that, oh, hey, I got a little extra money. I got more time. I got more availability. I could probably go have a drink. It's not as bad. And so some of these negative things tend to creep up, where we want to instill the right mindset again for that next level. And often, I guess, to distill it into a sentence or two, I would say that we see entrepreneurs is scrappy, problem solving. They deal with chaos and mess and uncertainty. And that's what allows them to go from A to B, because they just get in, they jump in, they solve problems. But it is often that same approach that they try to employ when they're at B and start looking toward or thinking about C, the next level. And it's often those same characteristics and approaches and techniques that they employed from A to B that they bring to B to C that will actually undermine their path so far. You've got to elevate. You got to level up. You've got to change the methods and the techniques. You can bring the same scrappy mindset, and that's what we've tried to tap into, these characteristics and traits that are inherent in your personality, but level up the approach so that the path from B to C is a little bit better, more articulated, and that you're not kind of cutting your own legs out from underneath you.
Yeah, no. So that's what you just described is probably the vast majority of entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
And like there's something in you, right? There's trauma adversity you're overcoming. There's a desire to break away. Our CEO Scott, he calls himself a corporate dropout. He just knew that there was something beyond the cubicle, right? And like, how do I get that? But then you're leaving a space, like in his world, where there were people that handled the accounting. There was the receptionist. There was all of these other people.
Mm-hmm.
So now you become that person that does everything.
Yes.
And and it's similar with me when I started my first business, right? I didn't have any money. I was in the mortgage business back in started in 2007. The economy, broke in 2008, 2009. Yep. And so now I got to figure out how I'm going to eat.
Right.
And because the industry that I was in, I wasn't in it long enough to have longevity through a crisis.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so now I got to figure something out. And then it was so hard for me to make that transition from, okay, I'm the bookkeeper, I'm the salesman, I'm the installer, I'm the advertiser, I'm the tax accountant, I'm everything, because I was working out of fear, right? Because if I spend this money and something happens, then I won't have the money.
You're right.
You know what I mean? And when it finally, like, no, I need to level up, and the only way to do that is to put the right people in the right place to where I can pass this stuff off to, and, some of you, man, you got to learn to trust, right? Like, how hard is that for us to do?
Yeah. Well, right. For sure. Absolutely.
But yeah, dude, I love it. I love it. Once you put, because we can follow processes, we can follow procedures. We know how to get from A to B. I know if I consistently put out content, sooner or later somebody's going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
If I put enough proposals out, somebody's going to buy. Like, we know those things, but then it's the what next. And I love what you said, following that triangle back around. So once you do get the extra time, what are you going to do with it? Where is it going to go? What matters to you? So I know there's a personal story in there somewhere. Like, why is that so important? Because a lot of coaches are like, oh, you know what? I will teach you how to function inside of your business. You can get all of your time back. You can make more money, and then you can just go do whatever. Mm-hmm. But your approach is very intentional. Where's that going to go back to? Why?
Correct. Yeah, there's a number of reasons. That's a great question, Will. Some of those reasons are because of my own story, and many are because of clients and friends and people that we've worked with and coached throughout this process. And there's one example that it's jumping to the top of my mind I want to share. A woman who was very good, scrappy entrepreneur, like fit the mold perfectly, just not afraid to go out there and get things done. Well, maybe afraid, but faced that fear and did it anyway, right? Just plowed ahead. And we started to create some of these systems and develop some of this process to where other people were doing some of these things. And the result that she began to see was a significant reduction in the amount of time that she had to spend in the departments and areas that she did not excel. So she was great at business development. She was great at relationship management. She was great at glad handing the clients and making everybody feel important, on the client end.
We hope you're enjoying the content. We want to encourage you to jump over to the Will podcast, where our mission there is to inspire you with wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and goals for effective legacy. Both of these podcasts are brought to you by Devore Media. Be blessed.
Vendor side. So that's where she was really getting the highest ROI. But now all these operational things that were slowing her down, keeping the books, just organizing, how many people came through, what bills need to be sent, all of these things began to go off of her plate. After about 90 days of some of those transitions, she was feeling that, this isn't working. Well, that was actually the phone call that she gave me. She said, "You've been doing this now for months with me and it's not working." I said, "Well, let's take a look at what you mean by what's not working." And it was pretty dramatic and a little loud and a little verbose. And
Sure.
We started digging into some of the data, and we started recognizing that the credit card spending on that same 90-day trend was like a hockey stick. It went up. I'm like, whoa, you're averaging $10,000, $12,000 a month ish before this. And now you're at like $35,000, $40,000 a month of spending. Let's see what you're spending. And the things that we saw in there for merchant spending, it wasn't like go high level CRM and some new coaching, and it was Louis Vuitton. And it was, there were a lot of fun, exciting things, but we started to identify through the data, which was hard for her to see because we are human, and psychology is messy and it's interesting, and there's layers, and we do things to avoid uncomfortable situations. So that it wasn't immediately apparent to her, but as we began to go through her credit card statements, honestly, it started to come up. It's like, there's Louis Vuitton on 4 days of last week. I mean, you went to that store 4 times in 1 week.
No.
And that it was becoming clear. And then it was openly discussed and talked about more easily and readily that, all this extra time, I didn't really know what to do. And so I went shopping. I had a little bit more money, so I spent it. And you should see my shoe collection. It's awesome. And so while I like that, what we ended up doing in that case was creating a little bit of a self-care plan, because that's what was missing. There was all these years of grind, right? Just like white knuckle grinding it out. And what she didn't do, and what we didn't account for back then, and this was in 2010, 11, she didn't build back into her schedule, or part of that triangle that we hadn't fully developed at that time. There was nothing for her. So it was kind of this blank space. It was this white space that was now available. And she defaulted to some old habits and patterns. So we've seen this again and again, sometimes in more destructive ways, where addictive behaviors start to come to the surface because, as that saying goes, the idle hands make for a devil's playground, right? There's something to that. And with kind of like our prescription for her going forward, it was we started booking through her executive assistant that she got her nails done every week, once a week. And once a month, she got a massage and went to the spa at a nice hotel. And those two things gave her enough of just time to reflect without, I don't have to work. I don't have to look busy. I don't have to act like I'm accomplishing something. Like, I'm going to the spa today. So those 4 hours are blocked. And with that, there was just the opportunity to actually reflect and to grow and to develop a new level of self-awareness. And I read in How to Win Friends and Influence People that one of the CEOs that he talks about in that book that wasn't identified by name said that one of his most compelling and important practices that this man had identified that allowed him to level up was the weekly act. And he said, my family knew every Saturday night that I would retire to the study. I love, because that book's like from 1920, so they spoke a little different. It's fun. But he would retire to his study every Saturday evening after dinner, and nobody messed with daddy. That was his time. And he would pull out his appointment book and he would review everything that he had done the week before. And he would just think about it. No real action items, but a couple hours for him to say, I met with Will. I should have been more prepared for that. or I wish I wouldn't have lost my temper when we started talking about that. And just that act of reflection created layer on layer, a deeper sense of awareness that allowed him to, and that was better than any negotiation, better than any job opportunity or degree that he ever obtained.
Yep. No, absolutely, man. That's I do lots of things. I have my roles and responsibilities here at the company, and I'm a husband, I'm a father. I also recently ordained pastor in my local church. I've been running a discipleship recovery ministry for 8 years now. I'm going into 16 years of sobriety. Right. So I didn't get sober and start doing the thing. I spent time being sober and learning it. And one of the things that I learned through the process that I still try to do frequently, we call it a daily inventory. What's before your day, before you hit the pillow.
Yeah.
Reflect on, like, what did you do? What did I do? Who did I offend that I need to apologize to? What time did I have allocated for the thing, but I really used it for, excessive scrolling, right. Was I a good steward of today?
Yeah.
Right. I don't know about tomorrow. What did I do today? Yep. Right. So if I can get 1% better tomorrow based off of, auditing my day to day, then I've done it. I've been successful, and, I think that's huge. And it's when you can open yourself up to be able to reflect on your behavior, your activities, your actions, and because you can put on a facade and you can lie to everybody.
Oh yeah.
And you can even try to lie to yourself, but it doesn't work. That's where the limiting beliefs come from. That's where the self-doubt comes from. That's where a lot of times, depression, anxiety, and all of those other things come from us not being willing to be honest with ourselves.
Totally. Yeah. The price that is exacted from not being true to yourself and true to your own word is just, man, that's a slippery slope, and sometimes it sucks to stick through with that. But if you do that audit, and I like to do it weekly and take a bigger look, just that suits me a little better. So I look at it every Friday. But if you can really, there's two parts to that, right? It's what you say in your thoughts and with your mouth. Yeah. And then your actions, and those two need to balance, in my view. So you maybe need to speak less, or you need to act more, or more with more integrity. But something's got to give, and if you can figure out making that give, even if it starts with speaking less, the confidence grows as a result. You start feeling more in line with your true self, with that spiritual part of you, with that part of you that comes from God, that has the answers, that has the opportunities there to expound and to develop and to grow and blossom into the person that you're meant to be. But when you say you're going to do one thing and then you do another, or if you say you're going to do 7 things, you do 4 things, and that continues, man, it just erodes the foundation under who you are as a person. And you can't trust yourself.
But then we expect everyone else to trust us.
Right.
Right. And then that's where conflict comes from.
Yeah. Yep.
It's the, do as I say, not as I do.
Yep.
Right.
For sure.
It's like, no, especially once you get to a place where, in leadership, where you have, like, you are setting the example for other people, and the CEO, the president, the leader in any department, the manager, whatever. Like, you set the tone for every person underneath you.
Right.
So if you are a person who consistently compromises the integrity, isn't wise with financial decisions, all of those, that bleeds down.
Well, for sure.
It bleeds down, and it's so detrimental to to any organization.
Yes.
And then the ability to delegate well, right? Because yes, it may be your name on the side of the business, but that doesn't mean that you are the best person to be doing every single role in the business.
Oh, totally. There's probably 3 or 4 or 5 things that you are the best at, and everything else you shouldn't be doing
Right.
at the proper time, right? In the right
Yeah.
time frame. And that's an important part of the equation. But because a lot of people have these limiting beliefs that, well, I can't afford to delegate anything yet, or I can't delegate all of these things yet. So yes, there is a time and a place for making those decisions, but absolutely, Will, just because you're the boss doesn't mean that you're great at deciding what to delegate or building the system to delegate. So there's a yin and a yang. I keep this right here on my desk, and look, I mean, it's big, because I always try to remember there's always 2 sides to it. There's balance and order in all things.
Yep.
And part of knowing that I need to figure out what I'm good at and what somebody else can do better than me. I also, the yin to that yang is I can also get better at things every day. Like you just said a few minutes ago, that 1% improvement, where it's not, I don't need to beat myself up about perfection or imperfection, but I can strive daily to be better than I was yesterday. And that's what I hope I hope that's one of the things that I'm remembered for, is that he did try to be, he was better every day. And that was kind of his mantra, and the proof was in his pudding, sort of a thing.
Yeah. And that's and I forget who said it, and it's not proprietary. I've heard it. A lot of people say it, there comes a point in time, whether, it's a for-profit business, a nonprofit, whatever it is that you're doing, there comes a time where the entrepreneur, the leader, might need to allow for a dip to happen in order to develop the person that's next in line.
Yep.
Okay, because you're right. You are the best salesperson inside of your organization. You design the product. You have the most, passion behind it. But you're gonna want to go on vacation.
Yeah, right.
You may want to exit one day. You may want to take a $50 million, $100 million exit. Well, if you're the best and you haven't developed anybody underneath you, well, you're not going to be able to make that exit, because they're going to want to buy you too.
For sure.
Yeah. And then you got to stay. So it's,
you got those golden handcuffs. Yep.
Yeah. Trust the process. Allow your experiences and your leadership and the right consultants and coaches to help bring your people up to where you are. And there may be a little dip.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
For sure it is. And as you're speaking, that this is why the way we crack into things with people is to look at some of those targets. So we know that is an exit something that you really want to work towards? And if so, we may have this kind of ground to cover, right? Let's identify where we're at, where we need to go. But a lot of people sometimes we have this tendency as human beings to want to trick ourselves that action equals productivity. Just because we're moving around and we're busy, we think we're doing stuff. And I mean, I know that so well because I do it all the time, So,
Sure.
But it's pervasive. It's something that all of us seem to have at some level or another. But what we try to look at is the ground that we have to cover with somebody to reach a target or a longer term goal. But then let's not confuse our action with productivity. Let's start looking for the little wins so that you can become that person who can exit. But maybe we start with something stupid and simple, like you're spending 20 hours a week, 2 times a quarter for 2 weeks to hire new people, because that's just how much time it takes you. Well, that's something that I struggled with. And it just, every time a new hire had to come in, man, it was 2 or 3 weeks of 20, 25, 30 hours. It derailed everything in my world. And it was just like, So I tried a few different ways. It was, I'm going to delegate that. I'm going to have somebody else do that. But then the people that came into our organization were not the people that I wanted to work with. So I'm like, I can't delegate that. This is too important. Yeah. So then I went back to just owning it again. So that's the kind of the entrepreneurial mantra. I'm going to give it to you. Never mind. I'm going to take it back because you suck. I'm going to do
Yeah.
I'll do it all myself. So we developed a playbook that reduces a 25-hour-a-week task into 3 hours a week. And over 2 weeks, you'll get better candidates, be involved with the whole process, leverage a little bit of technology. It's a 2-page Google Doc. You know, it's not that deep, as my kids say. You know, it's pretty simple and straightforward, but it's a playbook that you can repeat and repeat and repeat and get the kind of results that you want. And now that may not be the kind of ingredient that gets you $100 million exit, but if you can't do that to then start tackling bigger problems up the food chain, well, then your goose is cooked, so to speak.
Right.
Like you're never gonna get up there because you'll always bounce back and forth with, I'm going to delegate it. I better take it back. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to take it back. And you just become like a hamster in a wheel that never gets anywhere.
Right. And that's also toxic inside of the organization too, because then you start creating a philosophy inside of the organization that, you know, even if I try my best, Justin's going to come in and take it from me.
Yep.
You know,
so why try? So ask him anyway. Yeah.
Yeah. So why try? So now I'm not empowering my future leaders to lead today.
Yep.
I'm creating an environment to where they're probably not going to want to stay, you know, because I'm just creating a toxic environment to where, okay, so there is, you know, because most companies are going to use the buzzwords, you know, and this is the culture and we're a family here. And yeah, a real dysfunctional one. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I don't want to be a part of this family.
I don't want to go to that reunion. Yeah, that seems weird.
Yeah. 20, 30 years? No, I don't want to do that. Thanks. You know? I would rather go find somewhere, you know, and that's where a lot of entrepreneurs step out to where they're like, nope, I want to do better. I want to do different. I can do it my own. A lot of the, you know, they're the hero in their own story, you know, and then they take over. They bring a lot of those bad traits in because you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
And then you get into just like parenting. You don't know what you don't know, you know, and so what do? You revert back to whatever behavior you've witnessed before, even if it was bad.
Yeah. Sometimes unwittingly, right? Sometimes you don't even, unbeknownst to you entirely. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's not my, you know, it's not my go-to to be a jerk. Right. But there are some situations where it just happens, you know, like, because that's what I've seen. That's you know, I was in, you know, a couple years ago, was in a real estate closing that was going nasty. And the other agent on the other side just was, I don't know, he was having a bad day. He didn't drink his coffee in that morning, but he was just coming out like just very aggressive, you know? And so I'm protective of my client, you know, it's like, no, hey dude, we're not going to do that here.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to stop. We're going to take it. We're going to take a break. We're going to come out and we're going to breathe. And then we're come back in and we're going to do the deal. And, you know, when it got done, but I had an opportunity to talk to him afterwards, and he was very apologetic, you know, and he was like, you know, when I get frustrated, I lash out, you know, and I was like, okay, cool. Well, let's get some coffee next week and let's sit down and talk. Right. You know, this is my, my bigger desire why I do what I do is to help people just live joyful lives. Right. You know, obviously is to, you know, help people down a path to where they become a disciple of Jesus. Right. That's my goal. But I can't do that if I don't have a coffee, if I'm not getting to know, you know, what's going on. And this particular individual, what it came out, he just had a lot of unresolved issues from growing up in a toxic home. So when it got tense, he lashed out, you know, and
that's his pressure release valve. Yep.
That's it. You know, like that's it, you know, and, so cool. So now would you be okay if I mentor you? You know, can I coach you a little bit? Because like, let's get past the past.
Is he receptive to that?
Yeah, very much so. Very much
Cool.
so.
Very cool.
You know, and that's what, man, that's one thing that I have learned is, I used to, when I first got started in sales, I dial in a phone,
Mm-hmm.
cold calling, cold
Yep.
calling, cold calling, cold calling.
Been there.
And most, and I loved it, right? I loved it, because you never, like, there's an opportunity at the end of every dial.
Yeah.
There's an,
Yeah.
and it just, but what I learned is, like, when you have value to bring to another individual or to another organization, there's a possibility they may say yes,
Mm-hmm.
right? But you're never going to know unless you ask,
Mm-hmm.
and especially in the culture that we are in today, there are so many different options for everything, whether it's coaches, mentors,
Yeah.
tax account, there's so many
Oh, yeah.
different options. If you're not asking and setting yourself apart from everybody else, then you're absolutely never going to get, the deal,
For sure. For sure.
when you look through, you look at the life of Jesus, right? When he grabbed the first 12, he walked to them and said, "Hey, follow me."
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like, if we truly desire to see people be better, usually all we got to do is ask.
That's true.
Not
Yeah.
everybody's going to say yes. Not every cold call is going to result with a signed deal.
Right.
But I believe that I have value to bring to you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask.
Yeah. I love it. That's cool.
But like, for me, that was rooted because I'd gotten to a place in my life that I was so desperate that I wasn't sure if I wanted to live. A guy actually literally came and knocked on my door. Right? So people ask, why do you do what you do? Because one man knocked on my door and saved my life.
Oh, wow.
So I'll pick up the phone
Yep.
and I'll call you to see if you're okay. I'll pick up the phone to see if I can sell a house for you. Because everything that I do is rooted in I try to make everything that I do rooted in to helping you and making your life better. And whether that's your personal life, your business life, or your whatever, but that's my why.
Yeah.
It's because I had that one encounter with one guy, and 17 years later, I'm here to tell the story.
Yeah.
And
That's cool. That's
so,
cool.
like, what's your why? Because, like, we're very similar, because you could run a little business, you could be successful, you could go get a job somewhere, but the level of energy and effort that it takes to do what you do at the level in which you do it at is much more than the average human being is going to expend. Okay. So why?
Well, I think something you said a minute ago kind of struck a chord with me when you were talking about this other realtor, and even right before that, you'd mentioned something that when you don't know any better, you will often revert back to behaviors that you've observed, witnessed, been a part of, or have previously practiced. Sure. And that rang true with the example story that I gave you of the woman that we were helping over a decade and a half ago, where without a new playbook to go forward, she dropped back into, well, I'm just going to go shopping, spending, which that could have continued to spiral into a lot worse directions. And then the realtor that you mentioned that got just, his pressure valve started to get pretty aggressive. And then I think of that, even something as silly and seemingly unimportant in the grand scheme of things as hiring people. It's the same concept, right? You're in this position and you're scrappy, you're running your business, you're solving problems, but now you have to hire somebody. And that's like, it's not making widgets or baking cookies, or making this pizza empire that you mentioned. It's like it's something new, and so it's a departure from your lane of preference, of your sweet spot, and so these behaviors start to creep up, and you start to become less and less and less effective, and you may have some negative traits pop up too. You may start getting aggressive with the rest of your team. You may start reverting into some old self-defeating habits and patterns and behaviors that your go-to crutch, right? Sure. And so when we get into it, and this is why, to come back to your question as to why I like this, because when we can see a vulnerability like that in one area and say, hey, here's a playbook, just follow that.
Yeah.
They're like,
I am Will with DCRE, DeVore Capital Real Estate. We want to help you with your buying and selling real estate transactions. We know in the economy and the market that we have today, everybody is telling you that it is impossible to buy or to sell. We know that we can get the deal done. Give us a call at 844-4DeVore or hit the link below. Have a great day.
OMG, that took 3 hours, and I had the best pool of candidates I've ever had. Like whoa. And then it takes one of those wins is all to really get somebody drinking the Kool-Aid. Because if you take a 25-hour a week for 2 weeks to get a candidate that you're probably not super excited about because of all of these limiting beliefs, self-defeating behaviors and everything. So your outcome is it's not that great at the end anyway. So you're 50 hours in, and you compare that with 3 to 5 hours following something that gave you about this much stress.
Right.
Then your product is better because you're in a higher energy field. You're resonating and vibrating at a higher level. You're not engaging in all these self-defeating beliefs and behaviors and patterns and habits. And so you kind of transcend that and you overcome. And when I see somebody do that and get that win, I'm just like, yes, that's what we're talking about. I love that, because now that's a real 45-hour gain. There's 45 hours in that person's life now. They've got a better person than they would have before. They've saved 45 hours in the process. They can use it again and again and again and again, and now teach it to somebody else to do in their organization. And so there's this compounding effect. It's like pushing that springboard down and then up it flies. So we love those kinds of returns, like just helping somebody do that. And I've mentioned that a few times, and I have a Google Doc. It is 2 pages. It walks through this entire process, and you'll literally hire your best people within 3 to 5 hours. And anybody listening to this that is dealing with that issue, just come follow me on Instagram and message me. Hiring, I'll give you the playbook. It's totally yours because it will save you tons of time. And that's the why. Yep.
No, yeah, I love it. We just a few months back, we started a new recruiting process after a previous process was doing exactly what you said. The stress was high. The results were not what we had hoped for. Because you can put a lot of very good metrics on the whiteboard.
Yep.
But it's usually just hopes and dreams. Right. And then you don't want to be wrong.
True.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes we stay in something longer than we should be.
Big time.
Because then I have to admit that I was wrong, or, I was defeated, or there was something, I'm usually the smartest person in the room when I'm the only one in it. But when a couple of other life forms get in the space, I go down a bit, right?
Okay.
But you don't want to admit, like, I forgot something.
Sure.
I left a thing out. So we stepped back and said, okay, well, how can we speed this up?
Mm-hmm.
How can we get more qualified candidates faster? So we went and found an organization that focused in on the specific type of people that we wanted.
Yep.
For a specific type of industry that we were hiring for. And they go do all of the other stuff. And then we get to have those initial conversations.
Yeah.
And then, okay. And then we're bringing in 30 at a time.
Right.
And of those 30, 4 may stick around to the end. And then we'll schedule 4 face-to-face. 2 of them are going to show up for the face-to-face. One might take the job.
Yep.
But there's 2 hours of time.
Right.
As before, I'm trying to bring in 40 face-to-face so I can end up with the same thing.
Same outcome. Right.
So now we have this this ongoing recruiting process, because the people that we are bringing in for this position. So if you're in the Jacksonville, Florida area and you are looking for a job in roofing sales, which has a tremendous upside, send me a message. We'll bring you in. But now we're able to have this process to where it only takes a few hours a week, every other week. And we have a constant flow of qualified applicants to be able to help, do that. But, we had to invest a little bit. It costs some money, right? But it's, time
or money, which,
right. Because if I don't spend the money, I'm going to spend the money, right? Or I won't make it.
Intentionally or unintentionally, usually.
Yeah.
One better than the other every single time.
What was the gentleman who was at WealthCon, the sales coach guy, Andy
Elliott.
Andy Elliott.
Yeah.
Write the check for speed.
That's right.
Write the check for speed. If
true.
you can do it, your organization will thank you. Your stress level will thank you. Your blood pressure will thank you.
Totally.
Write the check for speed.
Totally. Yep.
So
one thing
what do you
throw in there on that topic, just to button that up if you're moving on, is stack things. And this works in a lot of things, but in hiring, it works when you're picking a new lawyer. It works with all sorts of things, but stack it all together. Put these times. So if you're going to do 4 face-to-face, don't let them choose their time. Make the morning block once, an afternoon block once, and that's the selections. And then you're going back to back to back to back. You're in the same energy field. You're talking about the same stuff. You're doing the same things. You get really good unwittingly, even. You're getting a compounding effect on your ability to ask questions and hone in on things. And the last bit that I would say about hiring is you can teach a lot of skills. You can't teach character. To teach character, to teach like values and morals, good luck. I have never seen a cheetah change its spots, but skills, I can teach you how to swing a hammer. I can teach you how to write some code. I can teach you how to empty the garbages and clean the office. But I first need to know that we can get along. You kind of have some similar beliefs, and that we're going to all be able to cohabitate a space and time and mission together.
Absolutely. What's your mission, vision, and values? You as an entrepreneur, as the leader, you need to know what those are. And they may be the best salesperson. They may be the best accountant. They may be the best, but if they can't buy into your mission, vision, and values, they're probably not a good fit.
Yeah.
And because
at best it's going to be turbulent, right?
At best, so now you're compromising your mission, vision, and values in order to fill a spot, right? So, all right, once you begin to compromise, most human beings will continue to compromise. And it's like you said with the schedule interviews here, right? Like run your life that way. Block the time. I have 5 different calendars. They all come to one place.
Okay.
But they're all time blocked. So like for this block of time, this is what I'm going to do. And I typically try to give at least 3 hours of time for a thing, because it's going to take me a little bit to get in the mode, right? What am I doing? What am I creating? What am I planning? What's the purpose? So then, okay, cool. That's done. It's completed. Now I'm moving into the next thing. Then I'm going to the next thing. And you can accomplish so much more than what you would do if, they laugh at me all the time. I close my office door, and just the act of the door being closed saves me so much time during the day, because I don't get a lot of the, hey, you got a minute? Hey, you got a minute? Hey, you got a minute? When I have the minute, my door's open.
The door's open, yeah.
But when it's closed, unless it's an emergency, I'm doing. And I personally, like, I know when the rest of my team is coming in, and I come in a couple hours early, because
Mhm.
in that 2 hour block of time where it's just me,
Just you.
I get so much done
Yeah.
that by the time life starts happening, right?
Right.
What do they? I think they credit it to Mike Tyson, but everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. So
Right.
your calendar,
Right.
is it's just a plan.
For sure. Yep.
Life is going to happen, the needs of the business, somebody's going to be sick, somebody's going to call out,
Totally.
something is going to become the priority for the day. So plan a plan a strategy around to equate for those things, man. I
Right.
love time blocking. Time blocking is amazing.
And sometimes you forget to put things on your calendar. Yesterday, I had a day that was just stacked all day long with minimal breaks. I was shoveling food into my face during one of the meetings and just apologizing for it. Um, but then I got to the end of the day and thinking, okay, I'm done. And I was about to leave the office to go to the gym. I brought gym clothes and everything. And usually I do that in the morning, but yesterday was so busy. I thought I'll do it after work. That'll be fine. I can get that in. And then I got a text from my wife that said, pick up Max for the church activity. And if you're not going to be able to go home first, then just meet him there. And I went, oh, the church activity isn't on my calendar. Why? On my calendar.
I can't
So
do it.
yeah, I had a decision to make right then. And so I decided, and this is really probably because of Kate, if I'm being honest. At that moment, I grabbed my phone and said, okay, procrastination versus this guy. Procrastination won because I put off the gym, which is a priority. I'm working on a certain goal I had a 30-day goal that I was committed to. And I had this thing. It was 6 something already, 6:20. I had to be at this obligation at 7, and I hadn't eaten any dinner. And so I'm like, I got to leave now, run home, grab food, grab my son, drive over to the thing. There's definitely no way for a gym visit. So I thought, well, what time does the gym close? Close at midnight. And then I came back to that principle we kind of started talking about, which is that integrity. I knew if any day, yesterday was the day for me to come up with a reason why I shouldn't go. And I've done it so many times. I need a rest day anyway. I need this. The body needs time to recover from a workout or whatever. But yesterday I drove to the gym. I left my house at 9:15 p.m. after the church activity. I took my son home and changed my clothes, went to the gym, the latest I've been maybe ever. And not that I'm some superhero by any means. It's just I recognized in that moment, and really it was because I'd made some public declarations of what my goals and things were. And so there was some accountability outside of just the voice in my head. And I thought, what's the worst that could happen? I'm gonna be tired a little bit tomorrow, maybe. I'm gonna be later than usual. But now I have that win too. I went to the gym. I left at 11 o'clock at night and went home, and I didn't delay it this morning. I went first thing this morning, so I can get that done and off my list, because it's not my favorite thing to do, but I'm committed to the process.
Yeah. No, that's the accountability, and I think a lot of leaders get to a place where they do live very isolated lives, and they stay so busy, but they're not necessarily productive, but they're so busy, and they have elevated themselves up to a place to where there is no accountability around them.
Yeah.
So if they do start, like, who's going to tell the boss that he's 30 minutes late? Nobody. Right?
Right.
Who's going to say, hey boss, like, I kind of need you to be healthy.
Yeah.
You put on 45 pounds last quarter, right? Probably need you to put some time on the calendar to go extra,
Yep.
but like, that's, if we're being completely honest, like, that's what we need,
For sure.
and if
I got to tell you a story, Will, if there's time. So when I
Sure.
was 19, my dad passed away. It was very unexpected. I was young. I'm the youngest of 9. So, he lived a good full life, but it was very sudden. They were on vacation. My mom and dad were on vacation, and he had passed away suddenly. I was the only kid not married, so I moved back in with my mom, so she wasn't alone. It was fortuitous because it was my first business venture gone south, and I was in the midst of bankruptcy. So I was going through bank, and I thought, oh, this kind of works. I got nothing. Mom could use some companionship, so I'm going to join her. And it was this cool 6 or 8 month period of time where I didn't really have a job. I read a lot of books and just got to talk and hang out with my mom and really build the relationship with her. That was awesome. And I started to experiment as a result of some of my reading with this concept, hypothesis of, I'm tired of making to-do lists. I want to make a to-done list. And so I just would write down things that I did after the fact. My hypothesis was there'll be no stress, right? This will be easy because I'm only going to write down the things that I did and be grateful for them. So I experimented with my own life, but then I realized, well, there's not much going on in my life. So let me let me put this over the lens of some of my family members and some of my brothers. They were all running their own business. I have 4 brothers. They were all in business. They were all running construction companies or plumbing companies or different things. And so I didn't have much to do. I would just be like, hey, come grab me when you're on your way to work tomorrow. And I would just jump in the truck with them and I'd have a notebook and we'd just talk. And it was this cool, weird part of life that I'm really quite grateful for. But I would write down the things, unbeknownst to them initially, I would write down the things that they got done. And taking a lot of calls, driving around. Usually at the end of the day, we would have a list that looked like this. Go by supply yard, stop by the job site, answer some phone calls, and maybe a lot of phone calls even, but answer the phone and go to lunch, go to a movie, go home. And I'd look at the list and be like, that's a pretty cool job. I mean, if somebody could make the money you're making and sign up for that job, I bet you I could get a lot of people to take that job.
Sure.
But I noticed when we'd get home, the narrative was always, oh man, I'm so busy. I've got this and this and this going. They're thinking of all these jobs, but that's where I started to figure out this concept of movement doesn't equal productivity or production. And that to done list concept just kind of got me thinking, that there's nobody there to tell the boss that they're really not doing it, because they would get to go to a job site, kind of yell about how everybody was behind schedule and everything needs to be done. The plumbing needs to be past this point yesterday. Then they'd get back in their truck and drive away. And sometimes they'd drive away right to a movie theater and sit down and watch a movie and eat a bucket of popcorn, and which is cool. But if you're going to do that, my argument to myself and to them was, well, at least celebrate that. At least be excited that your life is so awesome that you only had to do these 4 things today and you got a lot of relaxation as a result of it. And I like that idea of having, that's why I think business owners and people, when they get to that top level of management or the boss, they often don't have somebody to say, and they are kind of isolated, and having the insights of a coach or a mentor, or at least self-reflection, a good, honest inventory on a regular basis, I think is just key.
It is. There's definitely an eye-waking experiences that comes from running an exercise to where you're very, very honest with yourself and you audit your time, for a 2-week period. What did you do? Yeah. Usually after about 3 days, most people will, because like I do that in. Yeah, I do that. Man, like I said earlier, I do a lot of work with people that are, coming off of drugs and alcohol and, and other things. And I have them do this. Yeah. And like, what did you do? Take the next, I want to know every minute. I want to know 2 things. I want to know every minute and every dollar spent for the next 2 weeks. Tell me those things. You just 3 or 4 days into it. It's like, man, I need something to do. But I thought you were busy.
Right.
You didn't have time. Right. Right. Because I'm big on the best way to get an individual from being, we'll call it being stuck, to experiencing some freedom is to go find somebody to help.
Yeah.
Go be a net positive to your community, to your society, to your home, right? Go find somebody that you can, well, I'm not ready yet. I haven't been trained yet. No, you don't need a whole lot of training to be kind to another human being,
That changes your focus. I love that because it gets your focus off of your whole storyline, and it makes you
because it's
think about
always
something else.
me. Yeah, it's always me, and I'm this and I'm that. You know what? I want you to go make 10 peanut butter sandwiches. And I want you to go find a couple of homeless people and give them the peanut butter sandwiches and talk to them and hear their story.
Right.
Well, I ain't got time for that. Okay, cool. Well, take the next 2 weeks and just audit your time for me. Tell me what you did, why you did it. Tell me every dollar you spent, right? Because I guarantee you, when it's all said and done, I'm going to find time. You're going to find time in your life to where you can be a net positive impact on society.
I love that.
You're going to find extra money that you didn't realize that you had, that you can do some, because you're stopping to get your Starbucks, 3 times a day. You just bought a Lamborghini by the end of the year. We do so many things out of habit.
Right.
We don't even realize that we're not doing anything.
Totally. That's absolutely true. And when somebody's stuck, back to my little recycle triangle, that once somebody starts to employ that, that's where it creates a vacuum. And it's like you called it being stuck. And it's usually just not really, like, if we get down to the God's honest truth of it all, we just don't know what to do next. And considering that can be terrifying, so if we just avoid that whole concept altogether and just say, I'm busy.
Yep.
And so we fill our life with noise and habits and routines and Starbucks stops and everything else, because then we never have to address and adjust anything.
Yeah.
And we like,
when you have the accountability, you have the coach, you have the people around you, the friends, right? I encourage everyone to associate yourself with people that are a little further along on the journey than you.
Totally. Yes.
Right. Have you ever heard The Strangest Secret, Earl Nightingale? Nightingale.
Yes.
Like where he talks about the income from the son to the father. Like once if your dad made 40K, you're going to get stuck at 40K, the large portion, because this limiting belief, like, how am I I can't be better than dad. Dad was hero.
Yeah.
And like because you've never seen it before.
Right.
If 40K was the number and you got an opportunity for 80, but you've never seen it before,
you won't even try. No,
you won't even try, because it's not attainable, or, like, all right, like I'm used to 150, but there's 200 is here. You've never seen. Then you start to self-sabotage. Well, then what happens? You're inside an organization to where you're not fulfilled, and you just start knocking the legs out from underneath you, and before you know it, somebody comes behind you and takes your spot.
Yep.
Because they believed it, and it's the same thing with all of the other things.
Natural to them,
yeah,
it did feel natural. So they're like, "Excuse me, I'll take that one, please."
Yep.
You're cooked. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you're out. You're out the game, but it's with anything. It's like when anybody tells me they don't have enough time for that, why aren't you working out? I don't have enough time. Go find someone that has all of the attributes that you want and figure out where they got the time from, because they have the same 24-hour block of time that you have.
That's one thing we all share.
We do.
It's leveled across the board.
That's it. Well, we're getting to the end of our time here today, sir. So one, I want you to do a couple things. One, like, how can everybody find you? How can they connect with you and your business if they need some assistance? So I want you to share that. But like, leave us, like, what do you hope to accomplish in the next, call it 10 years?
Okay.
Like, what's going to keep driving you? What do you want? Where do you want to go? Why do you want to get there? How are you going to do it?
Okay. So just this, you saved the softball question for the end, huh?
Yeah, that's what I like to do.
So my objective and where I want to go, what my bullseye is just to help more entrepreneurs and more people, typically being entrepreneurs, but not exclusive to them, I guess, just to realize more of what they have the ability to do. I'm 45 years old. I've gone from rock bottom, foreclosure, living on my mom's floor with 2 children and a wife, to building a company that did 9 figures in 1 year, and then went all the way back down to the bottom and started building that back up again. And the lessons came that second time around just in droves. Maybe I was more mature. Maybe I was a little bit more, maybe less proud and a little more humble to absorb the lessons and to really synthesize the lessons that were there. But it was some rocky roads that I've gone through, and I can see errors that I have made, and I can see problems that many other people make. And we've been talking about so many of them in this conversation. And I just want to help people to skip all of those. Not all of those. Some of them, I guess I believe there's something inside of everybody, Will, that lights them up. I think it comes from God. I think it's our calling. I believe that it's whispered into our ears when we're born in this earth. And I want to help more people accomplish that. Because when I see somebody punch the clock and just be miserable for 75 years, it makes me sad, because I can't imagine anything worse for me. And so if there are people that are doing that want something other than that, I want to give them a big hug and say, whoa, hey, there's a better way. Hang on. And we don't need to get into all this esoteric, in-depth, deep stuff right out the gate. Sometimes it's a hiring playbook that just gives us more time to now solve different problems. It's that stuff. It's tactical stuff that I want to get into. So my goal is to reach more people in doing that. And I just want to, anytime I've been punched in the face. So I've had plans, and then Mike Tyson's come along and punched me in the face. And every one of those punches, I would like to benefit somebody else besides me. So let me tell you about the times I've been punched, and let me tell you how and if and where, and I was able to pick myself up or was picked up by somebody else, because a lot of times it was the other people picking me up. And those lessons are invaluable. And I think if I could just shave 6 months or a year or 5 years off of your learning curve, whoever's out there, that's what I want to do. So in 10 years, I'm hoping to do it on bigger stages and with other people. So I want to continue to be a resource to anybody who's out there.
You mentioned, going through trials, getting knocked down. I think one thing that what you haven't done is allow yourself to be a victim. Right. So on that second come up, it was, okay, I got to work a little harder. I got to work a little smarter. I got to put some things in place to drive me forward. Or I can sit down and say, you know what, this person did this to me. This person did this to me. This person did this to me. This is just my lot in life. So let me go find another floor to sleep on. Too many people shut down and do that. What? Something may have happened to you, right? And there's a good chance that something else will happen to you again. Right. But, you just not allowing yourself to be a victim, and it's picking yourself back up.
In the Alchemist book, there's a line towards the end that the alchemist says to the boy, anything that happens once will never happen again. Anything that happens twice will surely happen a third time. And, I was asked just yesterday or the day before in an interview, what we got into some of the details of some of the trials that I went through as a younger man, and, what made the difference, and how did I transform out of that into a different kind of lifestyle and role? What's the one thing? And I said, just your victim comments just kind of reminded me of this, that I stopped making excuses. That was probably the biggest thing. Instead of blaming somebody for he's why this happened. They undercut my contract. They broke their word. And I just said, okay, the buck stops here. If I'm going to do this, it's got to be with me and God.
Yeah.
And that's all there is. And that made all the difference. And then other people started to come into my life and support me and enrich me and build me up. And that the victim mentality doesn't get you anywhere. Well, that's for sure. And I can attest to that.
Absolutely. I love it. Well, man, thanks again. Where can we find you? Instagram,
Yes,
YouTube?
You bet. Come check us out on Instagram. It's Justin Lund. Love to have you there. We're trying to put out a lot of videos there. Kate's challenging and pushing us there. So hopefully there's some value that you can find there, as well as our website is propelyour.com. Propel, PROPELYOUR.com.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, sir. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Again, I am Will, and this is the Will Podcast, and we hope that we were able to share with you some wisdom, inspiration, leadership, and legacy. I want to encourage you to take today by the horns and just get out there and kill it. Be blessed. Take care.